Welcome to I Have a History Question. This is the program where you get those nagging queries about local history finally answered. Now here's Paul, your questioner, with historian Sonia Nizami.
Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Paul.
How are you?
I am awesome. How are you?
Great. I'm glad we're doing this again.
I am too.
And we're recording several episodes, but there's a lot of people listening to us live on KCTK Radio with the app or on Facebook.
Yeah, I think I have some family maybe watching.
You know what they're welcome to do?
What?
They can come and give us a call at 913-735-0060 if you have
Call in.
your history questions. Now do me a favor and speak right into the dot. Got to bring it up a little bit. See the dot on the side there?
Okay. Well.
It's on the phone thing.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, you can turn around to your mouth.
There we go.
There we go. We need to listen to you.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is the
People
show
really
where
need to listen to me. I mean, I think that's a great idea.
Oh, let's get us on camera too. Come on.
Oh.
All right, there we go. Hey, yay! So this is a fun little show where we ask questions about history. You're a historian. You've researched some of these. You found out some information we learned last time. You guys need to go back on your podcast feed and listen to why is there two Kansas cities and what's the deal with independence anyway. So this is a question that affects us all in this area. But I think there's a lot of them around the country, and it deals with the long history of college rivalries, you know?
Yeah.
Like you got Michigan and is it Illinois? I don't know who it is.
I don't know. I did new research on that.
But it's, you have the two Alabama schools. See, I don't even know what they are.
Yeah,
But
Auburn
and Alabama.
Right, yeah.
OSU, OU. There's a lot of them around, but the one we're most familiar with is the rivalry between the University of Missouri Tigers and the University of Kansas Jayhawks. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little history. I mean, I guess I'll let you tell us a little bit about it, but these names aren't just, they look cool on a jersey. They are very historic names. So tell us, my question is, why are they named that in the first place?
Well, I mean, I'll get further into it later on.
Okay.
But the Mizzou Tigers are named after, the militia that were in the four counties of Jackson, Bates, Cass, and Vernon that kind of like patrolled the area as well.
During the Civil War, right?
Well, actually a little bit before.
Okay.
And the Jayhawks are named after the Jayhawkers, which again were a little bit before the official onset of the Civil War. But you could actually argue that the Civil War did start
in our area. Now,
yeah,
why is that?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of history there, and we'll get into it. But these border wars were really, really vicious. Mm-hmm. Sorry. Just got a little bit happy there for a second with the music. So the Kansas-Nebraska Act was a big shift. In the Missouri Compromise, there was the 3630 line, and Missouri would be the last
slave state, right?
Essentially, yeah, the northernmost. The states south of that could declare themselves to be slave states, should that be what they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But the Kansas-Nebraska Act got rid of that 3630 line and established popular sovereignty in Kansas Territory. And that allowed people to decide for themselves whether or not they're going to be a slave
and
state.
Since the beginning of our nation, we've had the tension between slave states and not slave states from even before it began. And the Missouri Compromise basically kept it peaceful, right? for a while, and then the Kansas-Nebraska guys got rid of all that.
Yeah, to an extent, absolutely. Yeah. The Kansas-Nebraska Act was, I would say, very much an instigator for the Civil War.
You know, I want to make sure I say this correctly. I just said that the Missouri Compromise kept peaceful. Well, it wasn't peaceful for the people that were enslaved.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
It kept slavery. It kept slavery. It was a compromise that kept the nation together. I mean,
that's an unfortunate part of our nation's history.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of this goes back to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Kansas-Nebraska Act. So,
once that popular sovereignty was established,
and meaning, instead of south of Missouri.
Well, this is in the territory of Kansas.
The new territory, they get to decide whoever they want, whatever the people want, they get to do. Well, the white men. Right?
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear on that.
Right,
sure,
right.
Absolutely. White men.
Yeah.
So once that was kind of established, hundreds of pro-slavery Missourians crossed the border into Kansas and claimed land. And they organized themselves to gain political influence. And there was an organization called the Squatters Claim Association. And they called upon their members to risk their lives, if needed, to defend their right, essentially, to own slaves.
Yeah. So that's when they were doing what's called Bleeding Kansas, right?
This is a little bit before Bleeding Kansas.
Okay.
A little bit before. And so
you can see how I kind of know things, but I really need the guidance. That's the point of the podcast.
And so kind of in response, Massachusetts immigrant... Sorry, I wrote this down.
Okay.
Massachusetts Immigrant Aid Association, or Aid Company, I apologize, helped abolitionists move into Kansas, and they helped establish the towns of Lawrence, Topeka, Manhattan, and Osawatomie. And by the way, Osawatomie is my original hometown.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, my father was a psychiatrist at the Osawatomie State Hospital, which actually was kind of a gift to the state of Kansas.
Yeah. But I don't feel comfortable with anyone ever thinking that any place but Independence is your hometown. Okay.
Well, I mean, I am. Independence is
by choice.
My home.
Right. That's by the grace of God you live in Independence.
Exactly. But
also you have some roots back there.
I love Osawatomie, and it's so funny to me that this my father from Pakistan ended up in this tiny town, Osawatomie, Kansas, and they still have the John Brown Festival every year.
Now, just kind of a detour for history, but it's important. He immigrated, and what's his field? He's a doctor, right?
Yeah, he's a he was a forensic psychiatrist. Now he is, a psychiatrist.
So he went there to practice and to help out that community that probably needed some of his skill set, right?
Well, there is a state hospital in Osawatomie, as I said, was a gift to the state of Kansas.
From your dad?
Yes, from my father. Sure.
Okay.
And they do house the criminally insane.
Okay, so he was there working for the state, helping the people of Kansas. But that was a town along with Lawrence, Kansas.
Yes.
That was established by these
abolitionists. Or abolitionists. Can't talk sometimes. So, yeah, all these people started flooding in. And in March of 1855, border ruffians flooded in from Missouri to vote for pro-slavery candidates. And the pro-slavery candidates basically took over the territory legislature.
Okay.
And so
bad people with bad intentions.
Violence broke out.
It took over the legislature.
Right.
I'm glad that's changed a lot. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I derail you too much. Go ahead.
I don't even know what to say there.
Yeah.
So then from 1855 to 1858, we saw Bleeding Kansas, which was intense violence between those two opposing forces. Be like little picks on both sides. Many people lost their lives. It was devastating.
Now, what's famous is Quantrill's raid. Am I saying that name right?
Quantrill's
raid.
Yeah.
Into Lawrence itself.
Right. So that was kind of a result of a sheriff in Lawrence. It was in Lawrence. He arrested a Free Stater. A murder had occurred between a Free Stater and somebody who supported slavery, and the pro-slavery person did say that that it was in self-defense, and so a Free Stater was arrested, and it really set off this wave of intensity and Free Staters eventually broke him out of jail. So the sheriff, along with pro-slavery forces, went to Lawrence, and a lot of them were from Missouri, to raid. And that was the Wakarusa War, which never actually happened. There was a peace treaty. And those forces actually did at that time include John Brown. However, the next year, the sheriff who was so big in this situation was shot himself, and it set off another wave of violence. And when he was trying to arrest some Free Staters, and that led to the raid on the raid on Lawrence.
So what's interesting is that we're talking about from the very beginning question is, why is there such a bitter rivalry between University of Kansas, University of Missouri?
Well,
because Missouri and Kansas were at war with each other.
Right, exactly.
Physical, killing each other war.
Right, and it's because of all of this. Quantrill's raid, the sacking of Lawrence. And
now, do you know if the university was established at that time? You don't know that? Okay. That'd be interesting to know. But I mean, if you have a university in a town that was ransacked and people were murdered from the other state, there's probably going to be some harsh feelings.
Well, I mean, there's harsh feelings on both sides, and I have friends, I lived on both sides of the state line, and I do have to say, my stepmother, Allison, is an alumna of KU, and my sister is a sophomore at KU.
Oh, okay,
so,
good.
There's maybe just a little loyalty there, but
sure.
Rock Talk Jayhawk. But
well, my dad went to KU. My kids went to MU. And I always like to tell this joke on my dad. I went and told him, hey, this is pretty exciting. My oldest daughter, Megan, got into MU. She's going to MU. And he goes, well, she's not an animal, is she? So these rivalries, now they're fun. Now, before the conferences changed, it was fun to go to an MU-KU game with that rivalry and everything. And sports was fun in Kansas City. But this is where it came from.
Well, yeah, but even now, though, in the arenas, when they have the football games at Arrowhead, they separate.
Yeah.
the different like fans
Yes.
when they're parking so that they don't come in conflict.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, this is where it came from. And I mean, you can still there's still resentment on both sides of the state line, and there's so much to it. I mean, businesses destroyed, lives lost, and we just still see people like getting into these big arguments.
So the point of this podcast, everybody, is get over it. It's now just sports. We're all one together. But understand a little bit of the history of why it's so intense. Why, especially Kansas City in the middle of everything. It's fun to have that rivalry sometimes, but it really was serious situations.
Oh, absolutely.
At one time in our history.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, all over this part of the country, we have monuments and everything dedicated. Did you know, actually, there was a song written after John Brown's death about him, and the lyrics were changed, and now then the Union forces adopted it. It became the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Interesting. How about that? And I think a lot of people don't know that either around this area is, when you think of the Civil War, you think of, Gettysburg, and you think of some of the, Virginia, and then the march through Georgia. We were pretty active here too, folks.
Oh my god!
Pretty darn active.
Oh my goodness! Yes, and that's a courthouse in Lexington where there's still that cannonball that's stuck in the side of the building.
Yeah, and then we won't get too far off, but after the war, these criminals that went, that were the band that went over to Kansas, they decided to start robbing trains and stuff, and they had a guy named Jesse James.
Oh, yeah, I think he might have had a little bit of history around
So
here
they
or
were all
something.
part of that. At one point, Jesse James was the most famous American in the world. Isn't that weird?
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah. I think it was like
You're
early.
teaching me.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to help you. I think it was the early 1900s when Buffalo Bill, and there was a lot of cowboy about America stories.
Well, that would have been the 18.
Well, it was about the 1800s, but like when it was in popular culture through books and things like that.
Well, and they had those little magazines that young boys would read,
Yes.
and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that's when Jesse James was more famous. So
Would you consider those like old-fashioned comic books in a way?
Yeah, old-fashioned comic books. Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm glad that now we just have Superman.
Yeah, just Superman.
Okay, so now we know why is there such a bitter rivalry between MU and KU. We know where their names come, again, from, would you call them militias?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the Missouri Tigers was a militia that protected. They were, I always
And the
understood.
Jayhawkers.
I always understood that they were pro-Confederate, but they were actually pro-Union. The Tigers were. And also, obviously, the Jayhawkers of KU were anti-slavery group.
And I think that there's a lot that we really need to get into with Missouri history in regards to the Civil War. Because, Kingdom City and the Kingdom of Callaway is fascinating.
Well, thank you. Now I know this, and in the future, maybe we'll deal with some other stuff.
All
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to I Have a History Question with historian Sonia Nizami. You can submit your questions by emailing kctkradio@gmail.com or call or text at 913-735-0060. I Have a History Question has been a KCTK production produced by Paul Lavoda, all rights reserved. For more information and content, email us at kctkradio@gmail.com.